You're good to go.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2025 Curling Alberta Optimist U18 Provincial Championships in Leduc, Alberta, and you are watching through Curling Stadium Live. Handshakes have been well underway. We are already into Skips Rocks here in the first end of our championship play, draw number one. And we have a game for you today as we start off our week long journey to naming our U18 provincial champion here in Alberta. My name is Evan Asmussen, and I'm joined by Abby Whitbread and Hayley Adams as we have first game action here for you between Team Caleb Hofstra and Team Evan Clark. Ladies, welcome. You are on site. We've already been able to watch the first end so far, and rocks are in play. And my goodness, these teams are just right ready to go.
Yes, for sure. Right away, we've seen some great action. I'm excited to see what this gives us.
Now, I know many of our viewers have already been watching since the start and probably since the practice, and so have we as we've been waiting to get connected to our game today. But let's go through our team. Let's introduce ourselves to the members that we're going to be watching here for the next few ends and for the next couple of hours. And let's take it away here. Throwing the red stones here with Team Hofstra is lead Griffin Williams, second Connor Barkley, third Timothy Lawrence, and skip Caleb Hofstra, coach Ron Delmage, and they are out of the Leduc Curling Club. And throwing the yellow stones today for Team Clark is lead Rowan Fougere, second Spencer Orchak, third Daniel Waller, and skip Evan Clark with coach Jim Lautner, and they're representing the North Hill Curling Club. Now, to start our game off today, it was Hofstra with the hammer after a pre-game practice and a last stone draw to the button. And the ice conditions do look a little tricky for this first draw. Many of these teams did have a pre-event and a pre-game practice. However, it does look like some of these teams are still warming up to the ice conditions so far. Now, Abby and Hayley, you are on site, and I know that you are watching both live and in person. What have you noticed about our play so far in this first end as Team Hofstra and Team Clark are getting ready to set their week up and get themselves established here in the first end of this game?
Seems to me what we can see. Game on. We have already some pretty tough draws, some cards, and it's a pretty good game here.
Now, for those of us who are just tuning in, or for those of our viewers who are just turning in, our game didn't start off as the old cliche hit it out for the first end or so. Team Clark went right to bat against Team Hofstra and threw up the center line guard. And after a few errors and a few makes, this is the position that we're at right now, with Team Clark sitting just back four and Team Hofstra trying to attempt to make the draw for their single point, and they have. We're going to kick those stones away. We're going to head off into the second end here. Team Hofstra is up 1-0 over Team Clark. We welcome you back to second end action here in draw number 1 of the 2025 Curling Alberta Optimist U18 Provincial Championship here in Leduc, Alberta. You are watching through Curling Stadium live at your cozy homes here in our new year. I'm joined today by Abby Whitbread and Hayley Adams on site, and already today our game has been very intense with tons of rocks in play here between Team Hofstra and Team Clark. Going up on the board, Team Hofstra making a beautiful draw. Caleb there in the first end to score his 1 point. We're beginning the second end here with Team Clark having the hammer and the last stone advantage. Now, for those of our members and viewers who are unfamiliar with the play here and the format of this event, both on the men's and ladies' side of this U18 championship, it is an 8-team round robin with a 14-page playoff process. So all of these teams will be vying for every win and for every opportunity to stay at the top of the leaderboard, as their only way into the championship event and the championship process is to capture one of those top 4 spots. So unlike the first end here, where the rocks were put right to the test, we have a little bit more of an open play, trying to figure out the sheet. Abby and Hayley, you are no, I guess, guests to Leduc and guests to this surface here. You've played a ton across our province. What are some of the key characteristics of the event and the venue that our athletes in Team Clark and Team Hofstra are going to experience as they try to figure out the Leduc curling club and take some of the advantages into this game and into the future games throughout the week?
Yeah, it's looking like the ice is pretty fast here and getting a fair bit of curl, so that's definitely something to adjust to.
And that's a really good point that you brought up too, as well, is that different clubs across our province obviously have different characteristics. And Leduc is one of our larger centers too. And a lot of these athletes would have had the opportunity to play not only in a couple of bonspiels throughout the winter so far, but also the Leduc Curling Club is the host to the Curling Alberta Rocks Camp, which many of these members here and these athletes here have participated in. Recognizing a few of these faces out on the sheet today. And so they've had an opportunity to see Leduc throughout the year and be able to play on this surface. But of course, we know that going back and forth between their own home clubs and different clubs across the province, the conditions change, and they change from every time that you end up on the ice. Will that pose a challenge for some of these teams, Abby and Hayley?
Yes, for sure it is tough to adjust to all of their ice conditions, but hopefully with the pregame practice, and it is important to keep, or what we like to do is to keep some of the first ends clean and just to get to know the ice conditions, and that should hopefully help the rest of the competition.
A wonderful draw attempt here by Team Clark as they were just trying to sink one and capture a little bit of the forefoot, but came up just a little bit short. And we'll look to see Team Hofstra try to make that hit and roll underneath. Now, weight choice is going to be a really important management process here for all the teams at the U18 Championship, especially on ice that is potentially curling a little bit more early on in the stages of this event, or as they're getting to learn a little bit more about the sheet. We might see some tendencies to keep the weight up a little bit and to make sure that they make that main objective of actually hitting the stone and removing it out of play. And then as they get a little bit more comfortable, as the ice seems to wear down a little bit and as they play a little bit longer on the sheet, that they will start to learn some of the nuances and how to make those shots. Just ticks the guard here, promotes their rock into play, but exposes their rock there at the top of the 8 foot. Evan is asking Spencer to make this hit and roll here. A very precise shot. You want to keep the shooter around. Now you'll notice that Rowan is the only sweeper at this time trying to keep it straight there. He is the inside sweeper. Very good sweep by Rowan himself to keep that at the nose and to make sure that it didn't touch that yellow and kind of do a little round the horn ricochet off the side. A complicated double here for Team Clark, specifically in where that shooter might end up. If they seem to chase the double, it looks like they might end up setting a double back up for Team Clark. And it just takes a little bit of an over curl. Not the desired outcome, but nonetheless not a bad plan B as Team Hofstra rolls just in front of that yellow one, but stays on the center line there. Complicating the end for Team Clark as they do have the hammer to set up a potential deuce. Team Clark is electing to hit the rock on the outside here and roll in, but just gets to the nose. Yellow is still shot rock. Now, Hayley and Abby, going back to our conversation about understanding the ice, Team Hofstra's home club is Leduc Curling Club. And as we were watching pregame practice, they seem to be very comfortable here, and they already are taking advantage of a lot of the shots. And do you think them being the one of the home club teams is impacting the way that they started this game with more rocks in play?
I definitely think being the home club team makes them a lot more comfortable for sure, and knowing what to expect is definitely an advantage.
I like that you said that too, knowing what to expect. I think when it comes to any championship, there's always going to be the things that happen out of the blue or spontaneously happen. But we also know too as well that a lot of our athletes here competing, not only are they the best at their age group, but many of them are playing across different age groups too as well. And so many of our athletes at this championship are still developing. And so there are going to be those potential, I'm not going to call them mishaps, but those fortunate little wicks and ticks that do change the complexity of the end or do bring in a little bit of the unknown or luck to the game too as well. And then you combine that with still learning the ice surface and still taking advantage of trying to figure out paths. These first couple of ends, if not tread carefully, can result in some early leads.
For sure, and you can definitely tell that those first few ends are definitely when a lot of teams score those big ends and take an early lead.
Now we're into, I believe, skips stones here. Nope, thirds first, second. There we go. And Caleb just missing that rock on the wide side here. Trying to limit the potential scoring opportunity for Team Clark. Team Clark is going to have the opportunity to split the rings here and to make it a little bit more challenging for Team Hofstra to remove 2 rocks to limit the score. I'm just trying to take a look at where Evan is putting this broom down, as that's going to be a good indicator of how much curl they're expecting to get over to the side of the 12-foot side of the 8-foot. So ideally, Hayley and Abby, where do we want this rock to go for Evan to make sure that he has the best opportunity to take advantage of a big score here?
For sure, splitting the rings here is awesome, making sure we're not leaving any doubles. That would be an ideal position to score a deuce or even a 3 here.
In addition, I'll be leaving it higher in the rings, to make sure no hidden races.
And I think that sentiment of leaving it up higher and trying to make it level with those other ones in the rings caught them a little bit by surprise in that new path there, as Evan comes up just short of the rings. Still sitting 2 rocks and 2 scoring potentials here in the house, but a missed opportunity at that. It's a key double for Caleb, and I don't think he's taking it on. It looks like he's maybe trying to hit and roll or hit and stick to make a little bit more of a difficult score of 2 for Team Clark. And just cleaning it to the face of the stone. Red is sitting 1 shot stone, and yellow is sitting right over there off to the side. Second shot. This is an opportunity for Team Clark to hit and stick or hit and roll right into the rings there. Score their 2 points and take an early lead here in the second end. These center lines can be a little bit tricky though, and this is something that Daniel is definitely going to have to watch as he's the line caller there in the house. As that rock starts to approach the center line, they don't get a lot of wear in the pregame practice. And so sometimes that center line can be a little bit sharp and rocks tend to curl over it a little bit. But calling the curl sweep here with Rowan, looks like it rolls to the top of the 12-foot, and Team Clark is going to score 2 points and take an early lead, 2-1 here in the second end. We'll be back with you live in Leduc, Alberta, here through Curling Stadium.
Hey Ben, what's the Aztec Safety online e-learning website again?
Yeah, that would be aztecsafety.com.
Fire extinguisher and firefighting, we'll send that one to Paul.
Ah, now here's a course I should probably take. Conflict resolution.
Power line safety. Yeah, I thought it might help me with my line calls. Did you know this Aztec website has over 100 safety courses?
Jeez. Aztec Safety online course. Ground disturbance. Could have used that a few seconds ago.
And just like that, the teams have settled in, we have settled in, and we are back in the third end here at the 2025 Optimist U18 Provincial Championships, brought to you by Curling Alberta and Curling Stadium in Leduc, Alberta. And starting off the third end here for Team Clark is Rowan Fougere. Wonderful young athlete, very ambitious, very great student of the game. And so far, having a really strong start to this championship event. And I think Abby and Hayley, that's probably the most important part when it comes to these events, especially as a young developing athlete, like both of you are, and both of you were in these positions before, having a really great start really sets the tone for the event.
For sure, provincial weeks are long, and it's a marathon, and it's really important to get that confidence up right away to ensure you keep that going for the whole week.
What I appreciate about both of these teams, and what I appreciate the most about both of these teams, is that they're taking huge risks early. And not to say that the risks in the shots are low reward or high reward, but they're really taking an opportunity to map out the sheet, to get a full understanding, to gather some information quickly. And though they have made a few errors as they've been trying to map out the sheet, they've been able to rebound and to get to the end back on track for themselves. And I think that's really bold, especially when you're looking at the first draw. We might see some teams come in, approach it tentatively, have kind of a slow motion to learn about the sheet, to learn about the rocks as they're absorbing the rest of the event and their opposition too as well. But both Team Clark and Team Hofstra have really set out, as it seems, to really capture what the sheet is trying to tell them and trying to gather that information so that they're able to translate it across the event and across the sheets that they're going to play for the rest of the week. Now, just a small error there for Rowan Fougere, as he was attempting to hit the red rock out in the side of the house there. So an early opportunity here for Team Hofstra to sit 2 and to have quite the separation across the rings. Line looks good. And just a nice, clean, wonderful shot by Griffin Williams. Now you see Evan tap his shoulder there as he's trying to figure out what kind of weight choice is the best, and he's electing to throw a peel weight type shot here with Spencer to have a little bit more momentum as that rock tries to cross the center line and get a little bit closer to set up a double opportunity for later on in the end. A great outcome for Spencer there, hitting that rock on the nose and bringing that rock right up to the tee line there, that one rock higher. Caleb's going to have to make sure that he gets a little bit of a roll to create not only a little bit more distance, but also to lessen that angle of the double and try to make it a little bit more unnatural for Team Clark so that he can maintain that opportunity to score 2. See, Abby and Hayley, this is where it gets a little bit tricky too as well, because those hit and rolls are so difficult to manage, and we just see another nose hit along the center line there. But those rolls are really hard to manage, especially when you're trying to map out the sheet early on in an event. But just in general, what are some of the key tools and techniques some of these teams might capture to try to make those rolls more consistently?
For sure, yeah, especially early in the ends here. It's tricky to get that line down, but definitely using your sweepers is a big key to making those hit and rolls.
For sure, in addition to choosing to play a manageable weight, so you can use those sweepers, it is also important.
So we'll see there Team Clark taking the opportunity to try to make that roll, but just rolling out, giving Team Hofstra a free draw opportunity to the side of the house here to split the rings and even create more separation to secure that deuce for the end. And it looks like it's running a little bit heavy and just holds on at the back there. My goodness, young eyes. Now, what I do like about that, though, Abby and Hayley, is that it changes the double attempt now. So there was an opportunity for it to, of course, be even and have no double, but to bring it a little bit back, and of course, maybe that was by accident or by surprise, it changes the double look and it makes Team Clark have to go and throw off the outside there, which can be a little bit more challenging too in the early ends.
For sure, always making sure to change that angle so it goes away from walls also.
Now, most of these teams would also know too as well in their training and in their practicing, but it's not only about them mapping out the sheet and them learning about what the conditions are doing, but they're also trying to gather information on their opposition as they might see them again later on at the end of the week in trying to figure out what types of shots they're going to be successful or least successful with, especially looking towards the end of the game here and trying to figure out what they want to leave that skip with as a more difficult shot or a higher risk shot. But there's definitely a reward in taking advantage of playing across the sheet early on as you get to see your opposition also play the sheet. You can start to think about what kinds of shots you want to leave them based upon their own skills and techniques.
For sure. And also playing these teams all season, building up to this, you start to learn a bit more about every team. So using that to your advantage can definitely help.
And what you're going to notice too, as well, for our viewers and for the people watching too, is that with the U20 and the U18 aspect, we have our, I guess, our coaches at this event. We have our coaches being accessible on the ice and able to be out there and to be a part of the conversations with some restrictions, of course, but to be out there and to be alongside their team and to be able to scoop up that in action, that live action information too, so that they can better support their team not only mid play, but as they come off the ice too as well and debrief the game and then get prepared for their next one. It's a really big part of the developmental process, but it's also a huge advantage for our young developing athletes to be able to capture most of the game when they're also trying to manage the athleticism and the tactical side of it too. So we're looking at a blank house here so far after a bunch of attempts at doubles and keeping the rocks in at the back of the house. It looks like Team Clark is going to try to split the rings up here and make a blank attempt a little bit more difficult for Team Hofstra. And that's hard, Abby and Hayley. You know, when you have that house split, you have your two kind of secured cross house early on, it's really hard to maintain it for all 16 rocks.
For sure, yeah. That lead setup is super important and maintaining it through the whole end. It's super vital to securing that deuce.
And that's also a part of the tactics too as well of both of these teams. They would have to make that decision early on as if they were going to split the house and try to maintain the deuce and try to eliminate the opportunity for a double and for them to shift into a blank attempt, or if they're going to change their tactics and throw up another guard and try to secure their deuce that way, leaving open a rock off in the rings. So it's a great opportunity for us and for our viewers at home to see the style of play of both of these teams. And they might consider both these teams moving forward after this end, what type of end they might try to set up as they try to score their deuce. So Caleb here with the hit and stick. Just rolls out. leaving Team Clark another opportunity at a free draw here to put that rock in a more, I guess, tricky position and to make that blank even more difficult. Now I see Evan is putting the broom back to go over to the same side that Caleb just made the hit and roll out on, which is essentially what Caleb's going to try to do next rock to blank the end. I might think that they would change the turn here and maybe put the rock in the other side. However, it does look like they're maybe looking at a jam potential on that back red. So trying to take the sweep curl now to get that yellow rock in position right in front of the red stone there. Bringing it deeper and deeper for a jam opportunity. Good shot by Evan Clark. Great sweep team. But it does leave the same look for Caleb Hofstra as he just had with the previous stone. So all he has to do is replicate that to get his blank. What I really like about Caleb and Timothy and their conversation here is they're really methodical about where they're putting this broom down. Recognizing that you don't need to overthrow this to make the blank, but definitely putting the broom in a position where they're not going to throw the stone away, meaning that if Caleb hits the broom square on, the rock will always make contact with the side of the yellow rock. And just like that, no problems. A blank end here for Team Hofstra, and Team Clark still maintains the lead at 2-1 with Team Hofstra going into the fourth end. We'll catch you back here on Curling Stadium in Leduc.
I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
So you're a pizza person, but you're married to a wing person, and your kids are salad people? You can't pick your fam, but with over 50 menu items to choose from, you can make them all happy. Order today and enjoy Boston Pizza at home.
And we're back from a quick commercial break here on Curling Stadium, live in Leduc, Alberta at the U18 Curling Alberta Provincial Championships. We've got a 2-1 lead for Team Clark over Team Hofstra in our first draw of championship curling here in the new year. Ladies, Happy New Year, by the way. How have you started your 2025 year so far, other than spending it online here with us, commentating this wonderful event?
Just starting and resting up before curling season picks up again. What do you do, Abby?
Yeah, same goes for me. School's starting next week. We're enjoying the last few days here of winter break.
You know, and that's one thing that's a little bit more challenging, or something to consider about this competition, is that it has happened here at the end of many of these athletes' winter break, as many of them are still in school. It's a U18 championship, so most of them are in the high school or in the younger grades there, around the junior high or high school age. and this would be the latter part of their winter break, and it might even pose some challenges getting prepared here for the week. Now we're starting off again with a little bit of a cleaner end as Rowan puts his first rock into the rings there, trying to entice Caleb with Griffin to set up some kind of start to the fourth end here. But they were electing to hit the open stone, made a beautiful hit and roll. And now we have Rowan trying to remove that rock out of play, hits and rolls out. And we're taking another look at an open house so far. Now, Abby and Hayley, it is the fourth end, and when we're thinking about not only the score right now, but we're thinking about the whole game and that light at the end of the tunnel, those even ends do seem to matter a little bit.
For sure, having hammer in those even ends is pretty important and a big advantage for coming home in that eighth end. Being up or even tie game with hammer is a major advantage.
Now, of course, Team Hofstra and Caleb do have the hammer here, but they are down 1 point here at basically what we'll call the halfway mark of our game so far. And he is electing to throw the corner guard, but it does seem like he recognizes that he's going to have to try to capture a deuce here, not only to pull ahead on the scoreboard, but also to get within reach of Team Clark and to keep this game in their favor with the even ends. Now, Evan's electing to draw to the open side here. And one tactic might also be to choke off that corner guard too as well. And just get half buried behind that corner guard so that there is not an opportunity for Team Hofstra to get behind it or to make it more complicated. Going to open side here like he did is obviously a great opportunity to split the rings and to keep their rock and the opposition stone away from that corner guard, but you do have to be precise as Spencer comes up a little bit light there, creating two corner guards, and now has Team Hofstra licking his lips as there is a really nice setup for a deuce to be scored. And you know, Abby and Hayley, that's really a conversation about the tolerance too as well of a shot. We're into the fourth end already. These teams should have a very good sense of the paths and what kind of speed they need to be throwing in each direction and down each path throughout the sheet. But that tolerance conversation is a big important part of the game. And for those of you watching who don't know that tolerance or what tolerance means, it's that range or that small window of where rocks can be in the position to an ideal position versus an okay position versus it absolutely cannot be here. Not only is it a more positive way to have a conversation about what is a make and a miss, but a tolerance gives our throwers an opportunity to have a conversation about range, and our sweepers an opportunity about range of where an ideal position is for the stone. And so that should have been, and hopefully would have been, a conversation for Spencer, that rock could have actually come deep and Clark the opportunity to use their corner guard and to set up a rock along the side of the forefoot, which they've done. And it looks like Team Hofstra is going to make the chase here. They can see about half the rock, maybe a third of the stone, which should be enough to be able to throw just enough weight to remove it, but also keep their shooter rock in position. Caleb is liking it so far. A little bit of a curl sweep. A little bit more. Just captures the edge of it and rolls out. Maybe on the heavy side of the weight call there, but it did look like once that red rock got over the center line, that it kind of straightened out a little bit as it was approaching the 4-foot line with that inside out turn. That's going to be something to watch here as the game progresses. So Evan asking Daniel to replace that stone and make it just a little bit better, trying to get it fully buried here. Sweepers are on it with Spencer giving it a curl sweep. Brilliant shot and great management. Just curls a little bit to peek out on the other side of that corner guard, but not enough to make the chase. Well done. And Abby and Hayley, for our viewers at home, that's just what's going to be expected from some of these teams. And our viewers are going to see it all week, as once these teams settle in, they capture a little bit more about what's going on in these first couple events. We're going to see some incredible shot making from these young athletes.
100%. Once all these athletes get comfortable, I'm sure we're going to see some great shots.
That's just a flavor of what's to come, and it looks like we have another great shot coming in here. Timothy just being asked to freeze. Looks like it bumps it a little bit. And from the overview camera, it does look like red is shot stone. Really great shot. Now, Team Clark has to be a little bit precise here when it comes to placing this stone. If they rub off the side of this red one and expose their yellow, they'll leave a hit and roll opportunity for Team Hofstra to get back underneath. But if they over curl in a little bit light, which it seems to have done, it pushes that red rock just a little bit closer to that yellow stone. That's going to be a difficult red rock to remove for Team Clark. And Hofstra has an advantage here. And a great opportunity to score their deuce. So I really like this call here by Caleb. I don't know if he can be fully buried beneath the corner guard and be second shot. So a key importance is to make sure that this rock lands on the center line or on the tee line. However, it's not going to have enough speed to get there, which is going to make it more difficult for them to now score an opportunity for two. It does shrink that hole a little bit. So as you can see on the presenting screen there, where they left that guard or where that guard ended up, now it kind of creates a shorter, smaller hole to navigate to as well. Though it does cover more of the forefoot and does create an opportunity to sink one there and be shot, it does make both of those paths, in turn and out turn, more challenging. And Team Clark is going to have to make a decision here too as well. They're having a first conversation with Jim Lautner about what the outcome is going to look like here for them as they're trying to defend their lead. Now they could themselves draw right around that red guard that was just placed by Team Hofstra and put themselves in a position to steal. Or they could kind of choke off the center a little bit, making that hole that we just talked about basically unnavigatable. and making Team Hofstra have to deal with it or change their plans and how they're going to attempt to promote another rock or get another rock into the forefoot. Evan Clark with his first stone of the fourth end. Sweepers seem to like it. Definitely aware of where the best position is by Daniel having his broom up in that guiding cue position, trying to get the most as they can out of this rock. Very good shot. Definitely makes the end a little bit more complicated for Team Hofstra. Now I really like where Caleb's brain is with this shot here. He has basically an open opportunity to promote that stone up into the forefoot. But there is going to be some challenge here in making sure they understand, both sweepers and himself, what that weight tolerance is going to be. You throw it a little bit too heavy and it doesn't curl enough off of the center line, potentially making it, hit on the high side and missing the forefoot on the wide side. Or if it's underthrown a little bit, it's not going to have enough momentum to promote that stone basically in the tight guard position into the top of the forefoot. Recognizing in the overhead camera view that red is sitting one, but that yellow one is just tickling the forefoot. So they are going to need to get a good chunk of the forefoot here to put themselves in scoring position for two. Now I didn't have that on my bingo card. A little bit more weight than I think they all expected. And it stayed straighter and it hit that yellow one, just narrowly missing the top yellow in the 8-foot to potentially chisel it into the 4-foot. So got away a little bit with some luck there for Team Hofstra, but a really great opportunity for them to learn what they need to do in the future to make that tap. Now, Abby and Hayley, I've seen you make a million of those taps in Super League as we play you every couple of weeks, or as I get to curl next to you on Wednesday night at the Saville Center. But those taps are difficult, and they're difficult to make. What kind of information do you need to be successful with those types of shots?
Yeah, taps are definitely a very precise shot, and the right weight and right line need to happen for you to make the shot.
It's the same hand what weight you want, and making sure also sweepers know what weight to the movement.
Really great points here as Evan Clark is trying to attempt something similar and to make Caleb's last rock a little bit more complicated. But I loved what you had to say about the right weight and the right line there. And I think that goes to show how important capturing information from our front-end players is in making those types of decisions. And that's definitely something that Caleb and Timothy are going to have to work with in translating some of that information from their front-end players into the back end, because Griffin and Connor would be playing those 4-foot lines and within the 4-foot lines a little bit more consistently as front-end players. And so being able to get some of that information out of them and giving that that tap the best attempt is definitely something that they might need to work towards moving forward when they're trying to play those complicated tap shots. Now we do have a timeout here, a coach's timeout here, to help Team Hofstra navigate this opportunity to score 2 here. It looks like they know which turn they're going to choose, but it's just a matter of how much ice they need to play. So again, this is something that Caleb might turn to Griffin or Connor with, just as he's getting set up in the hack, about the path, if there's any nuances about it, and definitely the speed for this shot to be made. Caleb Hofstra with his final rock here in the 4th end, looking to score 2. Sweepers like it so far with just a clean. Now with the curl sweep to get it off. Oh. Wild. It looks like it picked there just at the hog line. It's a single score for red and a 2-2 tie moving into the 4th end break. We'll catch you back on Curling Live here in a hot second.
Hey Ben, what's the Aztec Safety online e-learning website again?
Yeah, that would be aztecsafety.com.
Fire extinguisher and firefighting, we'll send that one to Paul.
Ah, now here's a course I should probably take. Conflict resolution.
Power line safety. Yeah, I thought it might help me with my line calls. Did you know this Aztec website has over 100 safety courses?
Jeez. Aztec Safety online course. Ground disturbance. Could have used that a few seconds ago.
For over 20 years, the Sandra Schmirler Foundation has granted more than $9 million to hospitals across Canada for life-saving equipment for premature and critically ill babies. In the past 4 years alone, $4 million has been granted thanks to the curling community's incredible generosity. The need continues year-round, and with your help, we can ensure every baby has the chance to grow up and become a champion, just like Sandra.
Don't forget the brooms.
Come on up. Well, what do you got? You got 1, you got 2, you got...
Just one little, please.
You make moments like these possible.
Curling Alberta's 50/50 supports grassroots curling with a jackpot of at least $100,000. I know! Brace yourself. Join us aged 18 plus in nurturing these future curling stars. Support grassroots curling with Curling Alberta.
All right, high fives have been had and underway. We are back in for our fifth end of action here at the 2025 Curling Alberta Optimist U18 Provincial Championship here in Leduc, Alberta, brought to you by Curling Stadium Live. My name is Evan Asmussen. We are in the second half of this curling game today in draw number one of Team Hofstra versus Team Clark, and I'm joined by Abby Whitbread and Hayley Adams. We are here all week and weekend for you on the commentary, calling all the games as best as we can. And Hayley, Abby, barn burner of a fourth end, an opportunity for Team Hofstra to score two and to take a lead over Team Clark. But nonetheless, 1 point was scored. We have a 2-2 tie. What are we expecting here for the second half of the game?
I think we've been seeing teams get more and more comfortable, and I think we're going to see some aggressive calls and some points being scored.
Yes, of course, with 8 end games only in play and 34 minutes of thinking time and that opportunity to talk to a coach, we do recognize that some teams, once they get out of that halfway point or their fourth end break, they do start to recognize that time is not on their side and ends are running out to start to make their advances. Now, starting off the fifth end here is Griffin Williams. He takes the opportunity to put a rock top four, and Evan Clark choosing and electing to hit this and roll over to the side of the house. Now, it does kind of seem like both of these teams are, though, taking an opportunity to call some aggressive shots. It does seem like they're taking a little bit more of a conservative approach to starting off the ends.
For sure, yeah. Those first 4 ends, we saw some more aggressive play, but coming in with the first rock here might change up the style of play here.
And it does make sense too as well. The sheet usually gets swept after the fourth end break, and sometimes that little bit of a mopping does change the complexity of the surface. And so maybe this was an opportunity for Team Hofstra to just make sure that they have their feet underneath them after a very intense end, and to take a slow but steady start to the second half of the game. Now, for those viewers who are watching this game live with us, there are a ton of other games also live too as well, and you can capture that on Curling Alberta's YouTube channel through Curling Stadium, of course. But there are many other games going on, and I'm going to update you here a little bit across the sheet, rather than you have to click and leave our stream to go and find more information. So we have Riker Miller taking on Nathan Schoenhart, and that score is 4-2 for Team Schoenhart. We have Nolan Duncan taking on Kessler Bachek, and the score is tied 2-2. We have Peter Luschik taking on Austin Hennig, and that game has taken a wild turn of events, with Luschik taking a 5-1 lead by scoring 4 in the fourth end. And we have our feature game too as well. Now, of course, there is a ladies draw too, and you can capture that on the other stream. It is going synchronously to ours too as well. Both guys and girls play here, and we're going to have 2 champions by the end of the week. So I really love this play by Caleb Hofstra, as after a couple of attempts to secure a rock in the rings and to navigate those first couple of stones, the delayed guard comes back in play. And Evan actually taking the opportunity to play with it too as well here. And you making Spencer here draw the top of the forefoot. line looks good as it's coming into the ring. Sweepers are ready. It looks like Rowan is ready on the sweep side to get a little bit more, maybe a little bit heavy. Does seem to finish up there as it lands at the back of the button. Now, I've had the opportunity as a coach at the Alberta Rocks curling camp in our province here to work with some of these fine athletes, including Spencer and Rowan and Evan and Caleb too as well, and some of the other athletes across the sheets. One thing that I will make great commends to is Spencer's phenomenal technique. And Abby and Hayley, you will notice too that a lot of these younger athletes in their development have really taken the time to be more sound and secure in their technique, and it really plays a huge advantage to being a great shot maker.
Definitely, the practice hours these athletes put in is unreal, and it's being shown here with their techniques.
And I also think too as well, for these young athletes, their seasons are so short and so limited anyways, with most of their seasons being done competitively, at least at a younger age, kind of in that January if they don't move on. So here this month, if they don't move on to the national championships of sorts. So a lot of these curlers are actually well into their season so far. So for our viewers here this week, they are getting these athletes at their peak performance, which might seem a little bit different to some of our other athletes or our adult athletes or even our U20 athletes who are trying to peak here in the next month or two as they approach their own provincial championships. And when speaking about that, right now going on in Cochrane, Alberta is the last chance opportunity for the 2025 Alberta Boston Pizza Cup. So we have many teams in Cochrane right now trying to find and capture 2 remaining spots to fill the roster at the Boston Pizza Cup in Stettler, Alberta. We also know that the Alberta Scotties will be going on here in a month too as well, with that roster filled out and completed. And you can find out more about all of those teams and the scores and those team rosters on Curling Alberta's website under the competitions tab. Now, definitely, Avi and Hayley, as both those teams decided to get into a little bit more complicated play with the center line going up by Team Hofstra, and then with that little bit of a trap draw by Team Clark there at the back of the button, our end has become more increasingly complicated.
Yep, that's a pattern we're seeing this game. It starts off a little more simple shots, and then the teams really pick it up and start to get some complicated shots going on.
Now, it makes me wonder if the teams are recognizing that the ice is maybe starting to change a little bit. That's 2 draw attempts that have come up light and a couple of rocks that have gone a little bit heavy. And so it makes me wonder, with the amount of teams playing in Leduc right now, and with the, obviously the weather too as well, and the conditions, that our ice surface is starting to change a little bit and maybe is a little bit starting to fudge up or a little bit heavier from the first couple events.
Yeah, and generally we see ice conditions changing after 4th and break with, like you said, running the mop down and that break for 5 minutes. Really, it does change the ice.
Well, and you know too as well, Abby, like when we move into the second half of the game, a little bit of that pressure starts to surmount on these teams, and though they're well prepared for it, it does kind of seep into their play in unique ways, and some of these missed shots might just be the outcome of a little bit more pressure and a little bit more precision being asked of the teammates, and sometimes that can come across as, you know, the thrower being a little bit too careful and trying not to make too much of a mistake, translating in a miss on the sheet. So Team Hofstra with a wonderful freeze, and Team Clark trying to rebuttal there with a freeze of their own, but just a little bit heavy for Daniel Waller. Leaving an opportunity here for Caleb to really make a score difficult for Team Clark. And that's something I was a little bit curious about, Abby and Hayley too, as well, is Evan having the hammer here in the fifth end, recognizing that it is an odd end with the hammer, tied game, and when Caleb put that center line guard up, Evan elected to draw around it and play to the center line, which would be more advantageous tactically for Team Hofstra, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. Those few guards there allow for all of the teams, or both the teams, to be a little more aggressive, for sure.
Now, I know the game has changed quite a bit with the 5-rock rule, and of course, incredible shot making by all players. The rocks, of course, are much better. The sweeping is much better. But kind of that age-old tactical tale of, you know, when you have the hammer, you want to play to the wings so that you can set up for more points and leave the house open and the button open. And when you don't have the hammer, you want to protect that button with the opportunity to either limit your opposition's points or even steal too as well. And it just kind of seemed counterintuitive for Team Clark to play around the center line when that center line guard went up. And nonetheless, then it went heavy, which is really playing into the playbook of Team Hofstra here. Now with Evan being having this hammer here, and Caleb being a little bit heavy on that first one, Evan does have the opportunity to draw and kind of tap that red one. It is a little bit off of the face of that yellow stone at the back of the forefoot, which will create a little bit of room if he's able to tap it, so that maybe he can sit shot stone after this shot.
Yeah, and for sure with those guards angled how they are, getting another rock under here would be ideal for hopefully a deuce here.
You know, and if you're Team Clark here and trying to find a way to score, though they come up a little bit short and leave it half open, that's definitely not the way that you want to miss that. Now, I know that it was short and it's a little bit off center, but definitely giving the opportunity to tap that red stone off the button would have been a more pro miss here. But recognizing that it was light, those sweepers left it in a really good spot, because if it does stay open, then they have the opportunity to promote it into the rings. Now, it looks like after a conversation with their coach, Ron Delmage, Team Hofstra is going to take the opportunity to guard that yellow stone just thrown by Evan Clark. Now, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, and if I wasn't just an average or mediocre curler, which I am, I would be very tempted to take that out-turn draw and put another one right on the top of the button and really put the pressure on Team Clark to make that precise run back. So you can see a knifing of the rock to make it curl. They've elected, as it's heavy, to kind of wrap itself around. And it just goes too far, chiseling off the back there at the forefoot. does leave a draw attempt for potentially 1 point, maybe for Team Clark. You know, Abby and Hayley, I'm curious about that. Had Caleb thrown that exact same weight with the out turn, he would be sitting 2 right now and putting himself, maybe even, no, 2 for sure, and putting himself in a position to put a big steal up on the board.
Definitely that out turn did look good, especially there's room for error as well. If you come up a little light, you also block another one of Team Clark's draw paths. So, yep.
So Evan Clark with his last rock here, having a conversation with Daniel about which shot to play, either the out turn draw or this tap back, utilizing his first rock attempt. And really, this is just pick your poison at this part, whichever one looks better to your eye and you're most confident with. Now, of course, they're recognizing here in the 5th end that they might give up a steal potential. That being said, the weight choice is really important, because if they hit this the wrong way, not only will they come across the top of that red, but also remove their back yellow. Now, he is hitting the back one here, just a little bit wide of the broom, and it is a steal of 1 red for Team Hofstra. Team Hofstra goes up 3-2 here after 5 ends of play. We'll be back with you after our commercial break in Leduc, Alberta.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardline's ice pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best brew in the game. Hardline, join the revolution.
Curling Alberta's 50/50 supports grassroots curling with a jackpot of at least $100,000. I know! Brace yourself. Join us aged 18 plus in nurturing these future curling stars. Support grassroots curling with Curling Alberta.
And we welcome you back to the 6th end here in our feature game between Team Hofstra and Team Clark in Leduc, Alberta, as we work for the very first day in our week-long event to name a U18 provincial champion to represent our lovely province at the national championship. You're watching through Curling Stadium Live. My name is Evan Asmussen. I am joined by Abby Whitbread and Hayley Adams. And oh my goodness, what a turn of events here, as Team Clark was unable to score in the last end and now is down 3-2 to Team Hofstra. Hofstra has been slow and steady and definitely coming to a rolling boil, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Team Hofstra. Not only are they the club team here at the Leduc Curling Club, but definitely you can see that there is a ton of logic to Caleb's play, and he's getting the most out of his teammates at really pivotal and important parts of the end. It's great to see. We are in for a really incredible 6th, 7th, and 8th end here, as we are off with Rowan Fougier here in his first rock of the 6th end. Now we've got a centerline rock in play by Griffin Williams, and it'll be really interesting to see how this end unfolds. Now, in our previous ends, when burst rock has been put into the rings, we've seen it go clean and then we've seen the end become more complicated. On the contrary, when we've seen the center line guard thrown, all of a sudden the house ends up being quite empty. So I'm wondering what kind of play is going to happen here as both teams recognize that there's only 3 ends left to play. Now Rowan coming just a little deep with his first stone, setting up the opportunity for Griffin to get a really good rock buried there at the top of the 4-foot. Sweepers like it so far, hoping that it just finishes over the center line and it lands at the back of the 4-foot. Really smart play to make sure that that rock gets buried versus leaving it open. So sweeping that, recognizing that it was a little bit heavy, and sweeping it to make sure that it does get covered while still staying in front of that yellow stone a little bit. Now, if Evan's going to want to take the opportunity to score a couple here this end in this pivotal 6th end, he's going to have to be a little bit patient, and he's going to have to start getting crafty with his team. And as you can see right now, the most important zone of the end is, and of the sheet, is controlled actually by Team Hofstra with that tight red guard. We call that the control zone. And those rocks kind of sitting in between the top of the 4-foot, so that spot in the top of the 4-foot, top 8, top 12, and just outside of the rings. Those rocks are super advantageous to any team if they want to maintain control of the rings. And right now, the only team that has control of the control zone is Team Hofstra. And if Team Clark wants to get back into this game here later on, they are going to want to make sure that they're working within that tolerance, as Team Hofstra has definitely figured out a way to get that tolerance under control to keep their rocks in a more manageable position. So great draw by Connor there, leaving it just partially open, but getting to the nose of that and making the double a little bit more challenging. Now, I know seeing those rocks there in the top 4-foot and the back of the 4-foot, it makes a person want to lick their lips and try to blast a double out of there, but Evan's going to really need to make sure that he's mindful of where his shooter ends up here and keeping his rocks in a stronger position to either be scored later on in the end, or to just making it a little bit more challenging for Caleb to make some decisions about how he's going to approach the remainder of the end. Wonderful shot by Spencer. Not quite the double, but does remove both reds out of the 4-foot, leaving maybe the yellow rock shot, so that's wonderful, right in front of that back 12 too as well. But what it does is it opens up the 4-foot. So Team Hofstra electing to hit those back yellow ones and sit 2. I wonder if maybe they might have ignored that, recognizing that they have that center line guard. And even though they weren't shot rock as it appeared, trying to make a nice draw attempt, as they have had control of the control zone or the top of the house early on in rocks before. Now, Team Clark kind of getting an out with this end too as well. Only being down 1 point, that's still manageable position. They have to make the decision into if they're going to keep this score relatively close or keep it as it is all the way to the 8th end. So, Abby and Hayley, now I've got to ask you the question because we are seeing a low-scoring game as we approach closer to that 8th end. What do you prefer, being up one with the hammer, or sorry, up one without the hammer, or being down one with the hammer playing that 8th end?
Personally, I will always take the hammer. I think it's so much easier to generate those points. And yeah, Abby, what about you?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Hayley here. Being able to play the last end clean is
For sure
so much easier than throwing a whole bunch of guards.
And I think we recognize a lot of our top teams making those decisions too as well. For our viewers at home who are not only watching their loved ones, their family, or just interested in curling here today on our live stream, but if you have been watching some of the slam events and some of our Seasons of Champions curling with our top elite athletes, that hammer conversation is something that happens more frequently now with the 5 rock rule in how teams want to manage their scoreboard and having the hammer. And more teams are comfortable with being down on the scoreboard and having the hammer versus the opposite way, trying to defend their lead without the hammer. So again, it looks like the conditions are just getting a little bit trickier as the ice is starting to change throughout the game. Now, you've maybe noticed at the back there by the coaches that some of the teams are slowly starting to end their games here in the 6th and 7th end. And as those teams come off the ice, the conditions, of course, are going to change back too as well. And I know the ice makers at the Leduc Curling Club are doing their absolute best to maintain such wonderful ice. The club is known for having fantastic ice throughout the year. It's a hot spot for international, national, and provincial level teams to go and to practice. They accommodate a variety of levels of curling and types of curling, from wheelchair curling to doubles curling to their own league play in leagues, and then also many national championships too as well. Leduc Curling Club has a wonderful team. But that being said, this is a provincial championship, and there are many teams out there, and it will come into play. And here we have Daniel Waller trying to draw to the top of the forefoot, but by his body language, it looks like he wasn't very happy with the outcome of this already, as the sweepers back away and that rock slides its way to the back of the 12-foot.
And we see with Leduc Curling Club being one of the only clubs in Alberta open during the summer, they definitely get a lot more attention during August and September, especially with the Alberta Rocks Curling Camp.
So Caleb Hofstra with an opportunity here to put his team in a really great position and to draw to the top of the forefoot, having a wonderful conversation with Connor and Griffin as he gets prepared to throw his first stone of the 6th end. Sweepers managing this a little early, but like the wait so far. Now trying to get the most out of it. Can see Timothy in there. Okay. So they do put that one back button. I wonder, Abby and Hayley, if that rock went too deep.
Yeah, it's it might be a little too deep considering that rock just edge a button there. That placement, just a finesse tap on that center line rock might get you shot.
Now I know they made the decision to sweep it and to try to get some curl out of it too as well, but even still getting that curl sweep in there, it does still create a little bit of distance or maintenance of the speed too as well. So they were sweeping for the curl, but it does also drag that rock a little bit. And I wonder if leaving it higher might have been better for Team Hofstra. It looks like Team Clark is having a conversation with their coach, Jim Lautner. But it does look like with the intern, there's an opportunity to tap that red stone just thrown by Caleb and sit shot rock. So with the ice he's taking, it makes me wonder if he's actually planning to throw a little bit of a heavier weight, maybe back 8, and tap that stone so it kind of makes a little bit of a nest position. What's most important here is that Spencer and Rowan are able to sweep this to nose, if not just across the nose. Rolling open is not a great result at this point. Really trying to curl sweep it. So does tap it off of the shot position and rolls open to the 4-foot, but leaves their yellow rock exposed. And an opportunity here for Team Hofstra to sit 3. And Abby, that was my biggest worry too as well, is by playing to tap it, rather than to just play a draw and freeze, that it would run that little bit straighter and not remove the back red, but also roll open and expose themselves to hit and roll, a really good hit and roll, and then pretty much have no way to score.
Yeah, for sure. Coming up heavy there was a bit of an unfortunate mistake, leaving that yellow where it is.
So Caleb Hofstra with the opportunity to put a ton of pressure on Team Clark here in the 6th end of play. A really good hit and roll here, even half buried, definitely puts scoring in a very tough spot for Team Clark, and a very great opportunity for Team Hofstra to go up ahead on the scoreboard. A little bit more curl, and just like that, it looks like Team Hofstra got enough of a roll to get edge to edge and definitely make scoring very difficult for Team Clark. Great shot. Ooh, Abby, this is tricky. You know, because you gotta get across the face here. So you gotta over curl the shot that they're trying to tap out of the way and basically roll on the flat side to the top of the button. I might play the out-turn draw. I know there's a bundle of guards up there, but I wonder why they're not choosing to play this out-turn draw or back 4 and just tap that rock to the right of us.
Yeah, looking at this, it looks like you would be able to get there. Even a hair up weight with back 4 weight should be able to make the shot. Looks like just rolling out there.
So 1 for sure, maybe 2. Haven't made the decision yet. We go to commercial break with Hofstra grabbing at least 1 in the 6th end. We'll catch you back here for 7th end action.
Ben, what's the Aztec Safety online e-learning website again?
Yeah, that would be aztecsafety.com.
Fire extinguisher and firefighting, we'll send that one to Paul.
Ah, now here's a course I should probably take. Conflict resolution.
Power line safety. Yeah, I thought it might help me with my line calls. Did you know this Aztec website has over 100 safety courses?
Jeez. Aztec Safety online course. Ground disturbance. Could have used that a few seconds ago.
Well, we've got 2 ends left to play here in Leduc, Alberta, of the opening draw of the 2025 Curling Alberta Optimist U18 Provincial Championship. Team Hofstra taking a steal of 1 point and a 4-2 lead over Team Clark. Abby, Hayley, these ends are starting to get more precise. We're starting to notice Team Hofstra taking advantage of some of these really great opportunities. And Team Clark is definitely going to have to find a way with the remaining ends to score 2 or to get closer to Team Hofstra if they want to come out victorious in this game.
Yes, we'll definitely see 2 more guards here from Team Clark and probably lots of peels from Team Hofstra.
So Caleb asking Griffin to throw top 4 there. Wonderful shot here. And Evan, I think, is calling the hit with Rowan's first stone here. All right. Curious play, being down 2 with 2 ends to go. But we know, Abby and Hayley, that these simple ends, or these ends that start off simple, end up becoming more complicated.
Definitely. Also, Team Clark might be electing to wait to play that corner guard until that rock is in less of a dangerous position.
Yeah, we have seen a few delayed guards from both of these teams, so that could be what Team Clark is thinking here.
So a hit and roll out here by Griffin Williams, and it looks like that Evan is deciding which guard to throw. So the corner guard being asked of Rowan here now in the 7th end. And you know, Hayley and Abby, I wondered a little bit about the first 2 rocks here in the delayed corner guard. And I still wonder about it too as well, because we have the 5 rock rule in our games. Having that early opportunity to set up 2 corner guards may have posed more advantageous. Of course, it does come at that risk of what you said, of that really, nice control zone rock there, that complicated rock in the top 4 that was thrown by Griffin. But having those 2 corner guards early, I think, is definitely an advantage. What do you think?
I agree, especially this late in the game. It is coming up to time to make some aggressive calls and hopefully get your points up.
And Team Hofstra really making great opportunity of the situation here, keeping things open, electing to go to the open side and stay away from that corner guard until they have the opportunity to peel it out. What will Team Hofstra have to do to manage this 2-point lead here for the next 2 ends?
I think just ensuring keeping it clean and see how they elected to come that draw away from the guard, just making sure to keep their options open to ensure they can clear the other team's rocks.
Now, it does look by some of Evan Clark's decisions here that the team play or their team strategy is to be okay with being down by a couple of points going into the last end. So by hitting this open red rock here, it does speak to me that they're looking for either a soft deuce or for a skips deuce, so a deuce later on in the end, or to take the blank and to be down by a couple to score 3 in the 8th end. But what a wonderful hit and roll by Spencer. And that's definitely going to change the complexity of this end and put 2 back in play.
For sure, that initial setup with that corner guard and a rock buried behind is really good for ensuring that deuce.
So the advantage here to Team Hofstra is that they're able now to play this run back. And had Team Clark put up the corner guard earlier and then been able to establish one, ignoring that rock in the top of the 4, this type of shot would have been way more delayed. And they would have been way more established in the end. But nonetheless, the run back was just missed, still leaving a red corner guard. And Team Clark could even use that right now. Or they could choose to guard their own yellow one more time.
Yeah, we can also see them splitting here, trying to hold the deuce throughout the last 4 rocks here, 5 rocks.
Now, I'm curious to see Abby and Hayley if they are able to manage this deuce here with half the end already gone. Unlike our previous end where this strategy was implemented, it wasn't able to be maintained later on in the end. But now that it's almost half the end, I wonder if they're going to be able to keep control and to score this deuce. I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, and keeping those rocks even here is great for Team Clark, ensuring that Team Hofstra doesn't have a double.
Now, what makes this a little bit more difficult for Team Clark is both of those rocks now are behind the tee line. And when those rocks are behind the tee line, there's a shorter distance, of course, to the rocks being through the rings. And so those hit and rolls now have to be way more precise when they're trying to keep the distance from each other, or those distance between the stones, because all it takes is one little mistake on hitting the rock on the wrong side and it rolls out. Now here we got a mistake out of Timothy Lawrence for Team Hofstra, just wicking the inside edge of that yellow stone, still keeping it in play. And Team Clark is going to call on Jim Lautner to talk this through. So I'm not really good at translating and interpreting mime, but from what I could understand from Jim's hand motions there, it does look like he was having a conversation with Evan and with Daniel about utilizing that red stone and trying to tuck a yellow rock just behind it. Smart move and a really great timeout. And I really like this shot because if they play that open side, there's a greater opportunity not only to make a double, but also to keep that red shooter of Team Hofstra in front of one of those yellows, creating a jam opportunity. By going around the corner guard here, even though it does leave those 2 yellows exposed at the back, what it does is it creates an opportunity for them to not only hide a stone, but also make a more complicated double for Team Hofstra. And Team Clark with a good shot here is an opportunity to score a late 3. Now, Abby and Hayley, you don't have to get too cute with this. Like, you can get by this by quite a bit. All you have to do is just make sure that you are left of that stone at the back of the 8 foot.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good result there. We definitely have seen a momentum shift here with Team Clark looking at a 3.
And and that just goes to show how advanced these athletes are too as well, because one mistake that came out of Timothy on Team Hofstra there, and it really kind of sways that momentum or the pendulum back. And yeah, these teams know how to capitalize. So Timothy just missing the top one there, but hitting and making contact with the back 8 foot yellow stone and rolling over to the back of the 4 foot. A really good outcome. Leaves an opportunity for Team Clark to make a hit and roll. I really like this choice by Evan Clark to play the intern. Not only does it still have the opportunity to hit and roll edge to edge and keep those rocks in a more complicated situation, but if it does overcurl, because it's coming across the face of the red stone, it's going to lose a little bit of that momentum, and it's not going to roll as far as close to that other yellow over in the back 12, creating a double opportunity. Great shot. This is a really great outcome. There's tons of separation, and Caleb's going to be forced here to take on this double and try to eliminate a couple of stones and limit Team Clark to just a 2-point score. So Caleb does have some options with this shot too as well. Of course, the main objective is to remove one of the yellows at play. So the one that he's trying to hit, that's the main objective. He still has another rock too as well to eliminate it moving forward. But that being said, if he hits and rolls, he can roll in front of the yellow stone, he can make the double, or if he overcurls, by chance, he can also hit and roll under the yellow and still be shot. So by electing to hit this rock, there's a ton of opportunity for Team Hofstra to still make this end very complicated for Team Clark. And the double is, just too thin, and catches the backside of the yellow stone over on our right in the 12 foot, still keeping it in play. What a great attempt, but an unfortunate outcome for Team Hofstra. And Team Clark has the opportunity to sit 3 here in the 7th end. So Abby and Hayley, where's the ideal position for Evan Clark here to put this stone?
Yeah. Really anywhere top house here, not leaving a double.
To ensure the most separation between those rocks.
Yeah, like that. There's kind of a couple of options here. They can stay high in the rings and level, and that would eliminate a double opportunity. They can also go right deep too as well. Okay. So they ended up on the side of the 4 foot here. It does look like there's some really challenging double opportunities for Team Hofstra. I think what Caleb needs to keep in mind here is, where does the best plan be for my shot, or the tolerance of this hit? What is the best rock to hit with the tolerance in mind?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely hitting it a little thicker here is probably better, but we've seen this spot here has been a little tricky for Team Hofstra with a few rocks, so.
Now, I know obviously the double is something that they're going to want to take on because the double has the best outcome of removing 2 rocks out of play. But having a conversation with their coach here is a really great learning opportunity to talk about where is the best spot for our shooter. Those crosshouse doubles, not only are they difficult, but you have to throw them exceptionally hard to have enough momentum to remove both stones out of play. And what you're going to notice here is because they're hitting, or at least they're lining up to hit this one to the left of us here at the top of the 8-foot, 12-foot, it's going to not only hit that stone, but it's going to need enough momentum to move across the rings to the center line and then push that center line rock out to the side of the rings or side of the house. And that requires a ton of speed from the delivered stone. But in that conversation, if that double isn't made, having this rock hit and roll onto the stone in the 4-foot not only eliminates the back 12 stone from being counted, but it also makes a jam potential. And we might see Evan just draw for his second point, which would be definitely a win for Team Hofstra as the way it looks right now. So Caleb took on the double attempt, but it did over curl, just nosing the second shot of Team Clark. And Team Clark will have an opportunity to hit this rock that was just thrown by Caleb Hofstra, remove it out of play, stick their shooter, and score 3 points. And a vital 3 points at that, being down by 2. Evan Clark with his final rock here in the 7th end of draw number 1. Rowan is sweeping it. Now a curl sweep. And just like that, Team Clark puts 3 on the board to take a 5-4 lead going into the 8th end. We will be back with you for 8th end action here in Leduc.
I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
So you're a pizza person, but you're married to a wing person, and your kids are salad people? You can't pick your fam, but with over 50 menu items to choose from, you can make them all happy. Order today and enjoy Boston pizza at home.
Or whatever.
All of the above.
So we are back with you in the 8th and final end of draw number 1 here in our feature game of Team Hofstra versus Team Clark for the U18 Alberta Provincial Championship. We are brought to you by Curling Stadium Live. That's how you're watching us. That's how you're going to watch us all week and listen to our wonderful voices. My name is Evan Asmussen, and I am joined by Abby Whitbread and Hayley Adams. And wowza. What an incredible turn of events for Team Clark to be able to manage a three-pointer, the first three-pointer of our game and multiple score of the game. And we are in a really interesting position here for this final end.
Yeah, we definitely saw a huge momentum shift in that seventh end. And now we have Team Hofstra going home down 1 with.
Now, Abby and Hayley, we did talk about this earlier in the game, as we saw when our score was around that 3-2 mark. But we had this conversation about being down 1 with the hammer versus being up 1 with the hammer. And now that Team Clark has just had that wonderful 3 bomb, and they had one tactic to score that 3, what are they going to have to do to now defend against a multiple score here by Team Hofstra?
Definitely keeping the house clean is a key part in assuring that they don't get their deuce here.
Now, we talked a little bit about how important the control zone is, and you saw here that Team Clark asked Rowan to throw that tight guard too as well, kind of in that control zone, and we see here that Rowan just threw his second one back of the house. But with that 5 rock rule in play and not being able to hit stones out of the free guard zone until that 1 rock later, and then also not being able to tick rocks that are on the center line, a really great defense can also be a really great offense, and that's having 2 really good established stones in that control zone. We saw a missed opportunity by Team Clark to defend by having Rowan's second rock go deep in the rings, creating an opportunity for Team Hofstra to really put some pressure on now by establishing a good stone here around their corner guard, and it just gets by that center line stone. Tons of curl to the wing there, a great curl sweep, and had they touched that yellow one, it would have been a disaster, because with the no tick rule, their rock is removed from play and that yellow rock gets put back onto the center line. So really great shot by Griffin, and a really great management by Timothy and Connor, and Caleb guiding that rock into the rings here. And now Team Clark in a tough position here in making sure that this setup isn't in favor of Team Hofstra. So just picking that red rock out from behind their corner guard there, Spencer was able to remove that stone. You definitely can see a ton of curl moving from our left side of the screen to the right side of the screen right now. That definitely looked like it had quite a bit of weight to it, but it did finish up nicely there with that curl. Team Hofstra should have no problem here getting this rock buried. Sweepers like it. And now you're going to see that rock just finish in there. Trying to keep it still in the 8 foot and above the tee line. So it does slide deep, but completely lost now behind that corner guard. And now Team Clark is going to have to make a decision, a conscious decision, into how they're going to want to navigate the rest of this end. So it looks like he's elected to peel the corner guard. Hayley and Abby, what do you think about this decision here with Spencer's second stone?
I like the call, especially being up in points. It's important to keep that clear and then hopefully open up that back one.
So just like that, Spencer's able to remove the corner guard. Almost takes a little bit off the top of that yellow one, maybe in hopes that it was going to promote it. Red is still sitting shot stone, but yellow has that center line guard there.
And I do like that peel call there. For Team Clark, ultimately, don't let them get two here. One is okay, as long as it's not more.
So Caleb has brought to his team's attention a couple of really good options, but now they just need to settle on it. There's the draw, there's that hit and roll off that center line guard to create a corner guard. Super precise shot. They did even look at hitting the back one. I didn't like that. I really like this call here. Getting a rock established behind this corner or behind the center line guard of Team Clark definitely changes the way that Team Clark is going to have to address the rest of the end. So as the rock approaches here to the house, just slides behind the tee line, partially buried. Really good outcome for Timothy. And it makes Team Clark have to make a decision. Are they going to chase it with what they can see, or even playing that run back there? Now they've elected to chase it. Oh, just squeaks by the guard. Wonderful sweeping. Wonderful eyes to be able to watch that stone just get by. Does roll to the side of the forefoot, leaving an opportunity for Team Hofstra to hit and roll back under. Ideal spot here is to get edge to edge or half under here, making another hit attempt super complicated for Team Clark. Really trying to get that curl sweep. It does hit it on the high side and rolls. Oh, and it just rolls out. Just a little too much momentum, maybe a little bit wide of the broom. And now scoring multiple points is going to be a challenge for Team Hofstra. I was about to bite my own tongue there because I was just assuming that Evan was going to hit this stone. And then he went and put the broom up to draw around it, but he changed his mind very quickly. So Daniel Waller. Third rock's at play here. Open hit and just rolls over to the side of the 12-foot. Still leaving that center line guard there for Team Hofstra to find a way to sink two underneath it. But there are some opportunities, Abby and Hayley, for them to utilize those rocks out to the wing too as well if they choose even a freeze attempt. I do like drawing around this center line guard, but it does look like they're going to make the freeze attempt.
For sure, with those rocks being back house, that's a perfect opportunity for Team Hofstra to use that and hopefully get their dues.
So I see that Caleb had his broom out for the freeze, but they did use a coach timeout. And from what I can understand from the hand gestures here and from the conversation, the coach, Ron Delmage, is explaining to Caleb the importance of getting behind this center line stone. Now, getting behind this center line stone not only puts a rock in the forefoot, but it changes the shot complexity for Team Clark. Those runbacks are super challenging. Not only that, too, as well, those two yellow stones of Team Clark are deep enough in the rings that if they can keep this draw high enough in the house, say the top 8, top 4, there is a jam potential if Team Clark ever tried to chase it or tried to run it back, too, as well. So there's lots of possibilities and outcomes. And just like that, Timothy Lawrence there with the perfect draw to the button. Just a little bit of an overcurl, but definitely a great shot and puts a lot of pressure on Evan Clark with his first stone. So I love this conversation that Evan had with Daniel and with their coach, Jim Lautner. And I'm very familiar with Jim, not only as a coach, but also as a curler too as well, competing against him at the latter part of his curling career, and then also curling with both of his sons as my own adult play. But Jim definitely has a very great understanding of the shots necessary and the tactics involved in getting through this end for Team Clark. And what a great resource by Jim being able to have that coach timeout and to call this shot. So big sweep by Spencer here. It looks like it's just going to overcurl. And doesn't quite roll out, leaves it there over into the side of the free guard zone, but exposes the rock at the top of the button there as we see it. I really like that weight choice of Evan too as well. It was a manageable rock. It brings the sweepers into play. It wasn't a crazy peel attempt. And also they were able to utilize or use a little bit more of the sweeping and also be able to manage that rock too as well if it did overcurl with the potential of it rolling into the rings. I love that weight choice. Now, Team Hofstra has to be very precise here to not leave a double opportunity and to maintain the 2 score.
For sure. And we see Team Hofstra here using that back house rock, hoping to secure their deuce.
And you know, I always get a little bit tense and a little bit curious when it comes to freezing rocks in the back of the rings, because you are trying to throw your stone deeper in the house, and a little bit of adrenaline and a little bit of pressure does just that. And we see sometimes an overthrow or, that pressure or that adrenaline take over. And that was definitely not the right way to miss it. But of course, we think as the tolerance to when we're trying to freeze those rocks is that we can bump it a little bit. But when they're that deep in the rings, you feel like you have to throw it that much further, when really it's not much different or not any more different than throwing just a draw to the tee line. So Team Clark with the opportunity to remove the stone here. And have a force of 1 for Team Hofstra. Spencer sweeping that and just narrowly avoiding the jam. Team Clark sits 3, and Team Hofstra must score here to take this to an extra end. So Hayley and Abby, this is where precision comes into so much play, because even though there are those yellow ones to catch your own rock on, they also can be scoring points too as well if this rock isn't precise coming out of Caleb's hand. Final stone for Caleb Hofstra here in the 8th end, looking to take it to an extra end here with a single score. Looking for the curl sweep here. It looks really close and right on the money. Caleb Hofstra and Team Hofstra score 1, tying the game up 5-5. We will see you back for an extra end here on Curling Stadium Live through Curling Alberta.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardline's ice pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best brew in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.
Curling Alberta's 50/50 supports grassroots curling with a jackpot of at least $100,000. I know! Brace yourself. Join us aged 18 plus in nurturing these future curling stars. Support grassroots curling with Curling Alberta.
Well, fans, high fives are underway. Our teams are getting ready for extra end action. You are getting your money's worth today here for draw number 1, Team Hofstra versus Team Clark at the 2025 Curling Alberta Optimist U18 Provincial Championships. My name is Evan Asmussen. I'm joined by Abby Whitbread and Hayley Adams in Leduc, Alberta. This game has been neck and neck from start to finish. And you know what, Hayley and Abby, this is the outcome that I was kind of expecting, for it to go all the way last rock, maybe into the last end or even into an extra end.
Yes, both teams are playing great, so it should be a really good extra end here.
Yeah, we've seen back and forth action all game, so should be a close extra end here.
Now, the 5-rock rule is going to come into play here, hopefully, for both teams. And Team Hofstra definitely has a great opportunity here to get a couple of center line guards put up early. But making sure that none of those rocks slip into the house is going to be super important, because they are going to need some of that distance. Getting this rock as tight to the rings as possible is key priority. And Griffin does just that. There is a little bit of space there to put another one up there and to create some distance. And Evan is electing to take control of the control zone here and put that rock in the top of the 4-foot and establish a rock there, making it more complicated for Team Hofstra later on in the end. Now, for our viewers at home, one thing to keep in mind too as well is not only the 5 rock rule super important too as well, but it is also the no tick rule on the center line that becomes another key factor that comes into play when we're playing these extra ends. And as you see it right now, that red rock that is on the center line, not only can it not be hit out of play, but it also cannot be ticked off that center line too as well, making the precision of these lead rocks that much more complicated and complex. And it does add a level of intensity to the game too as well, but also it requires our front end players to be just that much more involved and engaged, and that the team play be managed right from the lead stones all the way to the skip stones by having that no tick rule in place. Because capturing a piece of that center line for our lead stones is super important, vital at this point. Now, interesting outcome. It looks like Team Hofstra set up one centerline guard, knowing that they have to steal this end, and then elected to go around, probably because that yellow rock of Team Clark acted as a centerline guard there, being high in the house. A little narrow on the throw by Griffin, and a little heavy too as well, and promoted that stone, and actually promoted it into a really good spot. Not only did it keep Griffin's lead rock and Team Hofstra's rock on the center line and in the no-tick position, but it also now created that hit stone as a frozen stone there onto the yellow, and those rocks act as centerline guards for Team Hofstra. It'll be really interesting to see how this unfolds. A phenomenal draw by Rowan there to the top of the, I guess, to the back of the button, and a great sweep by Spencer and Daniel. This end has become very juicy.
Yeah, and these angles for Team Hofstra are unfortunate, trying to get at that yellow Team Clark rock.
This definitely will be an important shot for Team Hofstra here, making sure that they can get, if not frozen to the face of that Yellowstone, but up high in the top of the forefoot, so that they do have some promising angles for later on in the end. And just like that, Connor Barkley is able to get that stone just to the top of that yellow and even tap it off the back of the button, creating a little bit more space for them later on in the end. What a great shot, and well managed. So now it's time for cleanup for Team Clark, using Spencer to start chipping away and getting rid of some of those centerline guards. That 5-rock rule and the free guard zone rule has now come off, and we're able to see some of these stones start to be removed out of play in the free guard zone.
Yeah, and that shot right there shows how even in one rock, momentum can shift from one team to the other.
I love that you mentioned that, and this game truly has been a game of momentum and momentum swings. And just early on in the event, that's something that both of these teams are going to have to consider as they exit this game, regardless of the result, is navigating those big swings in the game, and they're doing it well today. But that being said, what's it going to look like as the event unfolds? So Caleb, just asking Connor to replace the center line guard. You want to have a little bit of distance here from the rocks and the rings. that yellow-red or that red-yellow combination does act as a center line and a really good center line guard for Team Hofstra. And so keeping some distance between their guards is super important. Don't want Team Clark to be able to run this red center line guard into that combination at the top of the house and spill those rocks out of play. It's really favoring Team Hofstra right now, and keeping that distance in those guards is going to be super important. So the straight peel, I believe, is called here. But it does look like Jim Lautner is calling a team timeout and a coach's timeout. And I wonder if he's going to have that conversation with Evan. We're going to listen in here. So I'm gathering a couple of things coming out of Jim. I know he sees this run double, using that hand gesture to show that if you make that run of that red into the red, everything is going to move and travel over to the right of us as we're looking at it. But they did take a hot second to look at who was shot, and I wonder if they considered the slash pick on that red for maybe a small moment. Nonetheless, this is definitely the shot to call to try to remove that combination for Team Clark off of the center line, get it spilling over into the 12-foot, 8-foot over off to the side, and just clear up the 4-foot path for the future and for the last stone of the game. And a money shot by Spencer. And it comes at no consequence that both of those rocks rolled into the rings. That center line guard and that center line combination have now been moved off of the center line. The yellow shooter now is off onto the 4-foot line. And it has actually widespread those red rocks over in the 4-foot, kind of creating this wall, making it very difficult for Team Hofstra to protect all of it. So Timothy being asked to throw the center line guard, but it looks like it came in a little bit deep. Not a bad outcome, but Team Clark does have a couple of attempts here with Daniel to make a couple of doubles and to really clean up those red rocks in the control zone there at the top of the house. Just a little bit of an overcurl for Daniel there. Jamming that red rock raised into the other red rock there at the top of the button. But that exchange does look like it left the yellow stone at the back of the button, shot stone. So not a bad result. Not only that, the shooter did get left in a really good spot too as well.
Yeah, it was definitely fortunate how that yellow rock there stayed shot and their shooter is acting as a guard.
Now it looks like we're going to see Caleb ask Timothy to manipulate these stones a little bit and try to keep them kind of clustered on the center line, but also to promote that red stone back frozen onto the yellow just at the back of the button, while keeping everything kind of congested on the center line. A lot of precision being asked of Timothy right now. This is going to be a team shot. So line looked good, just a little underthrown, a little bit light, resulting in an overcurl and chiseling that yellow into the pocket, the red. You know, I see Evan thinking we're still shot rock and this ice looks like it's going up for guard. But I wonder if he should be hitting that yellow right into the pocket of those reds and just making the double. Okay. Maybe I misunderstood with the guard attempt, but nonetheless, Daniel tapped that yellow stone into the pocket there, definitely setting up a double in the future, but leaving that red one at the top of the button and still usable. Team Hofstra is going to have to get a little creative here. You know, Abby and Hayley, that also kind of brings me back to our conversation too about what to do with the hammer and what to do without the hammer later on in the end. And we talked a little bit about defending and how to keep things clean. And I'm just really surprised that Team Clark chose to promote another stone into the rings or put another stone into the rings rather than attempt to remove some of those reds out of play.
Yes, for sure. Normally when you have that hammer, your goal is to keep it clean, but in a good position right now, so we'll see what happens.
Now, Evan, do you think if you play this with a hack or down weight, do you think you ever tap that red for shot?
You know, that's a good question. And as I'm looking at the overhead screen, it makes me wonder if it does get shot. But what I can see here happening is Team Hofstra rearranging these yellows in a way that no longer line up onto their red rock at the top of the button. And I think that's a better outcome than trying to right now make that red shot through this, is trying to rearrange it so that there's no yellows going on to the button, which is a way that they might be able to escape with a steal here. I have no clue what was being called and what was being attempted there. But all I know is that one of those red rocks was removed. I think they were trying to play the slash, the red slash, onto the back. Huh. I might have waited for my last one there if I was Team Hofstra to do that. Because that yellow rock at the back of the button is a really strong stone to be able to steal here. And all they got to do is tap that red one up a couple of inches. I thought maybe even rearranging it would have been a lot more advantageous. Now we see Team Clark taking a tap opportunity away by throwing a guard with a great sweep by Spencer. There is still a little bit of a hole, but it's coming at it with the wrong turn to be able to steal. So you can see here, Caleb Hofstra, for his last stone here in the extra end, has put the broom down just at the side of the forefoot to navigate that port, tapping that red stone just a few inches closer to the button. Oh. Oh my goodness. We see handshakes. We see handshakes, and I'm curious because what that tells me is maybe they ran out of time. Well, friends, it doesn't look like we're going to know the outcome yet. We're going to have to find out from those viewers and for those people live on site and from the players themselves. But that is it. Team Clark comes away with a 6-5 win over Team Hofstra. My name is Evan Asmussen. I was joined by Abby Whitbread and Hayley Adams at the 2025 Curling Alberta Optimist U18 Provincial Championship. That is the end of Draw 1, and we will be back draw after draw to provide you live commentary coverage through Curling Stadium here at Curling Alberta's YouTube page. Have a lovely night. Take care and be well.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardline's ice pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best brew in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.